Thanks for coming back to the Politipop podcast. This is part 2 of our 2-part episode about the civil unrest that's sweeping the country, Black Lives Matter, the election, a little bit of everything that's in the news right now, and our feelings on it. If you haven't listened to part 1, go back and do that, and hopefully you'll enjoy the episode. I'll see you at the end.
Three, two, one.
Yeah, but it's particularly people of color. So it's like there's definitely a racism there, and I don't know where that's coming from. Is it because are there more? I don't know the statistics. Maybe are more police officers white? Probably. Maybe that's a statistic. Maybe part of the training makes them feel like they have to be feel afraid of people that are black or I don't know where it comes from, but there's definitely racism there, and I don't care how much they can deny it. The facts are there. The numbers are definitely going to back that up. It's crazy, man. It's just crazy that it still happens. It happens so often.
And it would be nice to just have people who are more worldly, if I can say that. Like our friend who is a cop, he grew up in, I think, a pretty diverse area. He has a diverse friends group. He's got black friends and everything. But there are people who go into these situations, not even having a college degree or anything. I didn't learn my progressive views. I didn't learn about feminism or racial inequality or any of that stuff until I went to college. That wasn't really something that we covered in high school. Sure, I didn't consider myself racist, but still, I had a lot of problematic views, and those really got turned around. The moment when I was taking a class on African American history, and I saw people protesting the desegregation of schools and holding up signs and shouting out racial epithets, and I remember crying in that moment. And I was like, oh, wow, this is what it's about. Now, if everybody who became a cop got that same education, I think things would just be different. If they were, sent to patrol very diverse areas, that would be different. I mean, I don't mean over-policing those areas, because that is the problem also, right? Yeah. If you only police a certain kind of area, 100% of the crime you find is going to be in that area, right? People use the term good neighborhood, bad neighborhood. Oh, how much crime is there? Blah, blah, blah. It depends on the type of crime you're talking about. You go to our hometown, how many problems do we have with opioids on Long Island in Suffolk County? Where you and I graduated from, a town over in Kings Park. So how do you determine a bad neighborhood then? Where we grew up, it's, upper middle class society, right by the water, plenty of smiling white people, you don't, there's a farmer's market, you don't think about that being a bad neighborhood, but what kind of crime are you talking about now? That's it. When people say bad neighborhood, they usually mean neighborhoods of color, yep. And they usually mean, like a violent crime or gang crime. In some cases it's just, having an ounce of weed crime, yeah. Which, isn't really a crime, but it's been used to jail plenty of black men, this stuff.
Yeah.
That,
I mean, it's,
I want to say everyone knows it, especially our 8.5 listeners.
I would hope so.
I think they're hopefully.
Hope so. But, I agree and disagree with what you're saying. I think education is really important. Go for it. I think I learned a lot as well, going to college, meeting different people. I think that's so important, meeting different people. My girlfriend educated me a lot on these things. So, getting yourself out there and away from your comfort zone can really help you learn these things. But, I don't think education makes you a good or bad person either. And some of these people...
Some very big racists are well educated.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe some of this comes from the family, from what they grew up being taught by family. I knew one of my best friends when I was in elementary school was black. I was friends with him his cousin, his family. So obviously, like, I didn't, I don't consider my family a racist, me a racist. They were fine with it. My mom was friends with his mom, things like that. But, there are problematic things that were still taught to me that my parents didn't. I don't know if they ever understood what, you know what I mean? Like, even to this day, I don't think they quite grasp it. And that's what I knew. And, who I was growing up in middle school and high school, I didn't consider myself a racist, but so many problematic things that I did and said, and reflecting back on it now, I'm embarrassed. I'm really upset that I felt that way, that I thought that stuff was okay. But it was taught to me, right? Like that's I grew up in a white household where they thought it was okay for these kinds of things. So I don't know. I think that's a big part of it. And again, I don't know if education is necessarily the make or break it. I think it can help. But like you said, there's some of the most educated racists in the world, and like, I think it was ingrained in them for their whole life, and it doesn't matter what they learn, they're going to still believe that. So it's, I don't know. I don't know the answer. I don't think anyone really has the answer.
I think it's because it's a multiple choice. It's kind of not just A, B, C, or D, but it's E, all of the above. There's, education is just a part of it. Police reform is a part of it. Having a literal, like I said, that reckoning with racism that this country hasn't had. It's not a huge part of what our public schools teach. And it's interesting how you said that you were raised in a white family, so like you had these racist beliefs, not racist, but like
ignorant,
subverted,
yeah,
inherent,
absolutely.
ignorant, yeah, like it was under there, even though you didn't realize it. I did too. But like the weird thing is, technically, my household wasn't a white household. I was raised by a Dominican man, a man who has been mistaken for black many times in his life, many times. And depending on, once again, how much of a tan he has, he could be black.
Yeah.
He could be considered black. There are Dominicans who are black. There's a whole spectrum of Dominicans that go from the darkest darks to me. Like,
it's pretty incredible, right?
It is. And but he had a lot of racist views as well. He would like do black voices and everything. I don't know why. I really don't know why. I remember there was an animated Martin Luther King movie we watched. I never told anyone this story. All right. So there's an animated Martin Luther King film that we watched in 4th grade, and I wanted to go to Blockbuster and rent it and watch it at home. I remember, this is coming back now. So I wanted to go and rent it and watch it at home. This is when Blockbuster was around. And I remember the whole time my father is doing like black voice as Martin Luther King. And it was like the most ridiculous thing. And like, I think he was doing it to try to make me laugh as a kid. But even then I was like, don't do that. That's not okay. And he was like, I'm Martin motherfucking Luther King and I have a motherfucking dream. And I was like, at 10 years old, I'm like, that's not okay. It's not okay to do what you're doing there. Even up to when I was an adult, I went over to my parents' apartment to make like Chinese food because I used to work at a Chinese restaurant. And then while I'm doing it, my father's like, "All right, now you have to shout ching chong while you're doing it." And I'm like, dude, for somebody who has openly experienced racism in your life, it's crazy how like you think it only goes to you. Like it's all around. He had racist views. His drug dealers were black. Like, how are you going to welcome him into your house and then have weird racist thoughts about it? It's just, it's so weird. And they were nice guys, too. I remember one time they brought over like a Philly cheesesteak and the dude cut it off and let my little fat ass have a slice.
They just don't make drug dealers like they used to,
They don't, man. It's not the same like good old, homie touch that we used to have at our drug dealers. But my father, like afterwards, he was like, "Oh, do you want to?" Oh my God, a lot's coming back now. I actually forgot.
Are you all right? Oh boy.
Yeah, like it's coming up. Oh my God,
the longest episode of the whole podcast. Here we go.
Hour 5, and that was when I realized that. No, but like I had this a slice of this guy's Philly cheesesteak sandwich, and he was like, and my father was like, "Oh, like, don't you think that's a little gross, like eating from his sandwich?" And like he kind of implied, and because he was black. I also got a Mets hat because I used to think I was a Mets fan from a black guy that my father knew, and he was like, "Oh, here, have my hat. Here, you can have it." It was the new orange, blue, and black logo, which I thought they were the coolest things when I was a kid. And my father was like, "Oh, like he might have lice or something."
Jeez.
Like my dad was like really racist, for being a minority himself.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. That's pretty wild.
And he spent most of his life trying to fit in with white people.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's, I've met your father. Obviously, I don't know him as well as you do, but maybe that's part of it. Maybe that's trying to fit in and trying to be part of, the culture that's in charge that's kind of running things. And if he felt like he's more like a white person, then he would be accepted more. I don't know. But that's sad. It's really sad to see someone like that, feel that way and act that way when, it's so clearly wrong. And if anyone should understand it, it would be him.
Yeah, you'd think. It was his whole life, it seemed to be kind of like he was an Uncle Tom. I know in his teenage years, he would spend a lot of time with his friends and, left his family multiple times just to spend time with his friends who were white. All of the girlfriends I saw him have were white. My mom was white, and that's why I am able to be white. Like it's an ability I have.
Yeah, that's a
I have
superpower.
I have a +1 whiteness score on my character sheet.
God.
It helps with my armor class. But yeah, he always seemed to be the kind of self-hating guy. When we had the Heritage Project in 6th grade and I wanted to, everybody in my fucking class was Italian or Irish. I wanted to do the Dominican Republic and make some Dominican food for my class. And he was like, no, just do the Italian part. Just say you're Italian, because my mom was. And I'm like, oh, okay. But I don't know, there's been a lot I had to reconcile with as far as my own racial identity goes. And, even now is an interesting moment because, I'm not sure if there's anything I can really do to help. I can go out to these protests. I'm not sure if I'd be considered more of an ally or just somebody taking up space, taking attention away from a message that's not mine to have.
It's
I don't know.
Hard, man. I think we both listened to a mutual podcast,
The Daily Zeitgeist for the uninitiated listeners. Yes, sorry.
And one of the people on there, Miles Gray, I think he said something really great. He said it starts, with you, and it starts with you not accepting racism in the workplace, in your home, with your friends, with your family. And when he said that, I really thought about it. And it really meant a lot to me because, we talked earlier about how, I grew up in a white household. There was a lot of things said and done that were racist that I don't think anyone realized were that problematic. And over the years, I've come to realize that, there were jokes that I made in high school that are not okay, and I reflect on it and I'm like, I can't believe I used to say those kind of things and joke about those kind of things and about these people, and it wasn't like, oh, this is racist. It was like, oh, it's so ridiculous. That's why it's funny. But even that in itself was racist, and my stepfather is very, very problematic.
What were some of those racist jokes he used to say, by the way? Just
I don't remember them anymore, man. They're it's like another lifetime, man.
All right, Tyler, at 17 years old, what do you get when you cross a black person with a Latino person with a Chinese person? I don't know, but I don't want him dating my daughter.
That was not me. That was not me at 17.
No, that was not. That's actually from.
I was going to say that wasn't literally me, but close enough.
No. But back to your racist.
Yeah, but I've caught him saying things that were so fucked up, and I called him out on it. And
yep.
We had full on blowout fights where he threatened to punch me because he knew I was right. I think.
Ridiculous.
I would just break it down from that's not true. No, this is why it's not okay to say that. This is why it's not. I dropped fucking hard facts on him, and he'd be like, "Shut the fuck up! I'll punch you right now." And it's like, why is that your response? Violence. Why is violence your automatic go-to? Because you can't back up with what you're saying. And he said things like, my girlfriend is Hispanic, and her best friend is Turkish. She knew a little Turkish. She's been to Turkey. He asked me one day, he's like, so is she Muslim? He just out of the blue asked me, he's like, is she a Muslim? I see she's got...
Wait, your girlfriend?
Yeah, no, he asked my
friend. Wait,
yeah,
what?
He asked me if my girlfriend was Muslim. And I'm like, no. And he's like, it seems like she's a Muslim. And I'm just like, No, I mean she's got friends that are Muslim. She's been to Turkey, but that doesn't make her Muslim. I don't know. Like, what are you talking about? Like, and it's just I think a lack of understanding about different people, different cultures. I mean, we went to a like it was this like convention for young Buddhists, people who were interested in getting involved in Buddhism, and it was like a gathering of all young people. And I remember
Weird thing for a Muslim.
and
to
I
do,
remember I
but whatever.
told my parents about it. My mom was like, "Oh, that's cool." And my stepdad's like, "So what is it, like a seance or something?" Because we're really into Halloween. He's like, "Was that like some like fucking ghost shit?" You know, and it's like, I'm like, I thought he was punking me. You know, I'm like, and then I realized I'm like, this man literally doesn't know what Buddhism is. Like, he has no fucking clue. He thinks Halloween and Buddhism are the same thing. I like that blew my mind. You know, and like. But it makes me understand like what I'm dealing with, you know, like maybe that's the lack of education or like a worldly view of having not met people that aren't just white, you know, and like cultured. It's interesting, you know. That's definitely it's eye opening, you know, because I think at his heart he's not a bad person. I don't think he thinks that he's being offensive or problematic, but he is, you know. But you know, I've decided I'm not going to just sit there and accept those things. And you know, I've had to deal with my own guilt of feeling certain ways and things I've said and done. So you know, for me, I've decided I'm going to call it out when I see it. And I know we talked off mic. You know, is it worth it? Because you don't change the person's mind. But you know, I got to try, and I got to hope that maybe it'll make that person think just a little bit more. And even if it doesn't make a permanent change, hopefully they'll think about it more. And if not, I'll just keep trying, right? Like, what else do I have to lose? At least I don't accept it, and they'll fucking know it because I'll fight them on it every second.
Yeah, and as my cousin once said to me, if you have to be uncomfortable because of racism, then everybody can be uncomfortable because of racism.
Yeah, that's very well said. Very well said.
Yeah, she says a lot of things well. She's an amazing young woman. But yeah, that was actually in response to an incident that happened this most recent Thanksgiving, in which a Latino slur was used by someone's family member at whichever house we were at for that meal, keeping it vague. And I won't say the slur, but it rhymes with tick. And it brings out a rage in me that is just so poignant. I honestly had thought that because the last meal I remember having with my mom was Thanksgiving dinner, I would spend Thanksgiving being sad. And yet, I spent the entire day being angry, which might have been a blessing in disguise.
Right? Like that's
right? But it was weird because the person who said this, it's like you said, like he's not a bad person. You know, he does come from a place where this is just what you called people back then. Now, in this instance, he was definitely using it as a hateful term, but forgetting that I am Latino, forgetting that I am a tick who's going to be in that family soon enough. And, you know, I remember texting my cousin about it because I was like, listen, I don't know how I should feel about this. And she was like, did you call him out on it? I'm like, no, I don't want to like ruin everyone's day. It was like 2 p.m. And she was like, listen, if you have to be uncomfortable because of racism, everybody can be uncomfortable because of it. She's like, you're a Latino man. You can't forget that. And you're going to be a part of this family. And I was like, I was getting fucking militant and I was getting radicalized over text by my cousin. But you know, I have had talks with this man. We went up to the country for Memorial Day weekend, and you know, I was helping him fix up the roof, doing like manly stuff at this trailer. You know, I just chopped down 7 trees with my bare hands and carried them up on my burly, muscular shoulders. And we were having a bit of a talk. You know, we were talking about flags as one thing, and you know, he was talking about how like, you know, his father said that once you come to America, you should forsake all other flags and only fly the American flag. And, you know, I was like, I can see that. You know, I can also see how this is a nation of immigrants. So being proud of your original nationality is American. because we all bring something here. That's what we've been from the beginning. And he didn't deny it. Like, I do have good conversations with him. But in particular, this conversation led to the use of the N-word, because he uses the N-word pretty frequently. Not always in a hateful way. I mean, I guess it is always in a hateful way. He might not mean it that way, but as a white man saying the N-word,
it is.
It's a hateful term, you know? But you know, he has some black kids on his job that, you know, looked up to him before he retired in the union, you know, guys that, you know, he really helped mentor, and they were like, oh, hey, you're my N-word. And they would call him that word. And one, it's one of the coolest things in the world when a black person calls it that. But two, you know, like, you know, he's like, oh, well, they say it on the job all the time. People say it in songs. Why can't I say it? Blah, blah, blah. You know, they use it as a friendly term. They don't mean it as a bad thing. And I told him, I said, I get that. But as I said, I think it was episode 8, the Get Out episode that I did with Josh, you know, I did fall into that. In college, I would say it because my black friends gave me a pass. But, you know, at a certain point, I realized the whole reason it's said by this community is because it's a reclamation of the term, at least as far as I see it. And that, you know, and I told this gentleman while we were having this conversation during manly activities, I said, this is the term that was used every time somebody lynched a person who is black, every time somebody, you know, sexually assaulted, beat, killed, set on fire. That was the word that was shouted at them. So they are trying to reclaim it, trying to take back the power of that, and call each other that to change it into something else. I said, I don't need to be a part of that effort. I don't need to be a part of that reclamation effort anymore. You know, I never was, but I really don't need to be saying that word.
When a white person says it, you're kind of corrupting the word again. You know, I think that's the problem. It's not our place to do.
Yeah, just like I feel it's not our place to say, however you should protest. Listen, if you get results, you get results. You know, but as I told him this, like, you know, he listened though. And he was like, well, he said, I do see like these people who are older in nursing homes, you know, calling the people who work there and take care of them N-words and all this other stuff. And he's like, I don't want to be that guy when I get there. You know, I am trying to just be more open-minded and a little more liberal about life. So it is interesting, like, when to pick your battles. Yeah. I'm not sure if you could ever have a discussion like that with your stepfather.
Probably not. Probably not.
Because there are a lot of times like racist shit comes up and I just let it go because like I told you off mic, I said, I'm not going to change anybody's mind. It's just going to start a fight, blah, blah, blah. You know whose mind I have changed? My fiance's. Because, you know, she is very open-minded and she has made an argument for like, oh, well, why does this thing matter? Why does that matter? And but she's always been open to learning, and I feel like I lay out a pretty good argument for my stance, and she's like, oh, well, that makes sense, whether it's racism or whether it's gun rights or whether it's any other sort of politics or social issue. Like, you know, I feel like I usually make a pretty solid point, and we go from there. We have constructive discussions about it.
Yeah, I think that's so vital to be able to talk about these things. Like when I first met my girlfriend, we've been dating 5.5 years now. She brought up race like pretty early on in the relationship, and just like talking about it. And I was really
well. You did invite her to a hate crime on your first date.
Yeah, I mean that didn't help, but we learned a lot from it. You know.
Yeah.
No,
that is a joke.
Definitely a joke. I promise it's a joke. And I was really uncomfortable. She actually brought this up the other day. We were talking about stuff, and I was really uncomfortable. You know, we were talking about...
You're eating cereal? She's like, why the fuck are you so white right now?
Like, I'm eating so fucking white. I'm just like, I'm eating my fucking Cheerios and drinking my milk in a glass. So, could you fucking leave me alone?
Can it be fucking chocolate milk, you lily white motherfucker? You fucking white devil motherfucker.
White devil. No, it's all good.
But she brought it up the other day.
So she brought it up the other day, and she was like, you were really uncomfortable. And I was. Like, I remember I was just like, I don't want to talk about this. Like, why do we have to talk about this? Race is not an issue to me. I don't see color. You know, the classic, right? Like, I don't see color. Like, why can't we just, like, not talk about it? Why do we have to worry about it? Because I I didn't understand. I didn't get why it was so important. And you fast forward 5.5 years later, and here I am on a podcast with you talking about race and about color and about white privilege. And, I feel much more comfortable discussing these things. I feel like I have a better understanding. I'll never fully understand it because I am white. But, I think it's so important to talk about these things, because from talking about it with her, I was able to come to a point where I was more understanding and more comfortable and able to discuss this with somebody. I feel like, obviously we have a good rapport. We're very close, but I feel like if somebody I didn't know wanted to talk about this with me, I could have a discussion with them. And there's so many people that aren't willing to do that and can't, and that's sad. It's sad and it's frustrating. And until we can get to that point, we're gonna have so many problems still. Like, people have to be more open-minded across the board.
It really is a shame. That's interesting that you had the I don't see color thing. Because have you ever seen the movie The Hate U Give?
No.
So The Hate U Give is a good movie. Came out a couple years ago. It pretty much speaks to exactly what's happening now. And the main character of the movie, she's a black girl in high school, and she has a white boyfriend. And his whole thing is, I don't see color. I don't see your color. And eventually she had to come out and say, then you don't see me. Like, that's the thing. Like, that color is somebody's identity, whether you like it or not. That color is their struggle. So there's no, by you saying, I don't see color, not you in particular, but anybody who says that, you're also saying, I don't see your struggle.
Absolutely.
Or slightly off topic, actually not off topic, because it's Pride Month, and, the Stonewall riots were started by drag queens and trans women throwing bricks and fucking rioting to save their own. So it is applicable. But like, anytime there's an LGBTQ plus character put into a movie or a book or something like that, and people go, who cares? I don't care, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, you saying that it's not a big deal and you saying you don't care is you not recognizing how big of a step this is, or how important representation is.
When you have representation in everything, right? Like, any movie, comic book, TV show, video game, sports figure, you have representation. Like, especially as a white person, a straight white male, you have representation everywhere.
Everywhere.
Like, maybe once in a while it's not about you anymore. It's about someone else having that representation. And, like, so many people fucking get triggered about that stuff, but they just don't understand it. They don't get that.
Lastly, at least as far as for me, I want to talk real quick about just social media. There's been a lot of interesting stuff that's been happening on my feed. I removed a lot of people after the 2016 election, around that time and shortly after, unless they're people I absolutely have to be friends with, who lean right or are, more conservative. I removed them. I'm at a point right now where I actually have a lot of my liberal friends who are attacking me anyway. The big thing now is we can't ignore that there's an election coming up and that it's looking like it's going to be between Trump and Biden. So I've been posting a lot of anti-Biden stuff. And every time I do, I have my liberal friends hop on my ass and they're like, oh, well, then you're giving up you're throwing away your vote if you don't vote for Biden. This is our only chance to stop Trump. You have to think about all the people who aren't privileged like you. Like, you come from a place of privilege, and you can afford to throw away your vote, but there are people who can't. They're depending on Biden to win, or they might just be saying Trump not to win, because they, on paper at least, they say they hate Biden as well.
Nobody fucking cares about Biden, right? like no one's like a huge Biden
Nobody
fan.
is.
Like, yeah, Joe Biden. Like, it's about getting Trump out of office.
And the other thing is, I'll even post anti-Trump stuff, and then they're like, oh, well, all this anti-Trump stuff, and you still won't vote for the one man who can get him out of office.
Yeah. I get that too. I'll get, when the election happens, if Trump wins, you're not allowed to post this stuff anymore.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've gotten that from people. It's like, I'm not a Trump supporter. So it's like, I don't know where you're getting that idea.
I don't know, man. I'm at a point right now where, like, I really have to, like, I have to vent. I have to, put my thoughts out there. And it's like my friend Jay said. He said that, for the most part, it just makes us feel better about ourselves. But like, it is a lot. Like I've been having to tune out more and more from social media and tune out more and more from the news, which sucks because the news cycle is ever evolving and you do want to be up to date with what's happening. But on the same token, how much stress can you handle? I've been going through a lot with just being in lockdown and having to confront myself. And just to add to that, like every time I hop on Facebook, I have one of my own friends attacking me. And like, I'll admit it really fucks me up, man. And like, I like to just be the one who's like, oh, I'm so strong and I don't really care. But like literally it fucks me up. But moreover, how do you think that's going to get me to vote for your rapist? How do you think that that's going to change my mind? You hopping on and just just fucking attacking. Like, is that what campaigning for Biden is? Is that, I mean, apparently it is. He'll come out and say if you don't vote for him, then you're not black.
Or if you believe Tara Reid, then don't vote for him.
Which I believe Tara Reid, so I won't vote for him. Like, it's that simple, I feel. How do you feel about Biden? I know it's a very broad question.
Yeah, I mean...
But, like, where are you in this?
So, I grew up a Democrat, right? My mom was a Democrat. I believed the Democratic Party was like my party, right? That's how I grew up on. As I got older, compared to a Republican, yes, the Democratic Party more aligns with what I believe. But over the last, I'd say 5 years or so, honestly, like I've really educated myself a lot more on politics and on the world, on America, and I consider myself not a liberal, but a leftist. I'm a democratic socialist now, and to me, Joe Biden represents everything that I hate about politics, about politicians, and about America. He is your cookie cutter politician who, he was under Obama, right? And I know a lot of people loved Obama. I voted for Obama both times. I loved the guy for so long. He did a lot of horrible things. He put kids in cages. People think Trump started that. He didn't. He's still doing it, but Obama started that. How many countries were drone striked? Like there was a lot of bad things that happened.
A lot of innocents.
A lot of innocent people killed, and nobody either knew or cared because everyone said Obama's a cool guy, And Joe Biden was his VP. Uncle Joe. Look at all the memes that came out, right? He's a funny guy. He's chill. He's friends with Obama.
Memeable.
Very memeable. Joe Biden is a very problematic man. If you look at his record in politics, he's always on the wrong side. He's always on the wrong side, Whether it's a racist policy or a homophobic policy or voting for the Iraq War, like he never is the guy making the right decision. And he has proven time and time again during this election that he is not the guy that we should be voting for. Whether it's saying we're going to teach the police to shoot people in the leg instead of the heart, or you're not black if you don't vote for me. He's just so problematic, and he has rape allegations against him. He has been creepy towards women on camera multiple times.
So imagine,
right? So like
what's happening off camera.
These allegations are not that hard to believe. So me, I cannot, and I will not bring myself to go, I'm going to vote for the lesser of two evils. Because evil is still evil. And I don't believe Joe Biden's a good man. I don't believe he's a good politician. And I don't think he will help this country. His slogan is nothing will fundamentally change. Well, the protests that are happening right now, the riots that are happening right now, are about change. About changing this country for the better. And helping the people that need it. And if he's not willing to push change, then why would I vote for him? So yes, that's how I feel about Biden. I will never vote for him because he's not the guy we need. He will not help us. I don't believe putting him in office will change much from Trump. I really don't. Trump's a piece of shit. But I don't think we'll get much different from Biden. Like it'll go back to more behind closed doors stuff maybe. But, I don't think it'll help our country. And I stand by that. I really do.
Well, yeah, like what's wild is I actually do feel like a little alleviated when I do see like, oh, Obama said this, Obama did that, because the man's a war criminal. But god damn it if he didn't have class while he was drone striking weddings in Yemen.
He did. He was a cool
had
guy,
so
man.
much class and swag the whole time.
And it's easy to forgive someone when they're that way, right? People will say, yeah, maybe Obama wasn't great, but at least he acted like a president. That's the thing that always gets me. He acted like a president. So what does that mean? Does that mean that as long as you give a good speech and you smile for the cameras and you act respectful to the people in the room, when they walk out, you shoot them all in the back, it doesn't matter? Like you can do any crime, but as long as you act like a professional, it's fine. Like that's what always gets me. I'm like, that doesn't mean anything.
I was talking to Joe Armstrong today. He was from the Batman v Superman episodes of the podcast. Go back and listen to them now. And he's one of the more educated people I know, and I really love having discussions with him. Mainly because in this case, he was surprised that I said I wasn't voting for Biden. But he didn't do the whole like, oh, well, you're letting down everybody if you don't vote for Biden, and you're a fucking idiot, you're idealist, blah blah blah. Like, I told him about that stuff on Facebook, and he was like, why are you still on Facebook? But I said, like, I told him, I said Biden's a conservative. And I said that, his voting record shows it. His voting record shows that he's pro-segregation, that he's anti-women's reproductive rights, that, yes, he was for the Iraq War. He helped push through crime bills and everything that targeted black people. And he was like, oh, well, that's a long time ago. And I said, honestly, fair. If Tyler and I can change our outlooks on things, surely Joseph R. Biden can. I don't know if R is his actual middle name, but it flows.
Sounds good.
And I told him, I said, find me something recent then. Find me something recent that shows that he's a different person, and I'll take it into account. Because I'm going to be honest, if I did believe, I fucking, the stuff I don't post about Trump. Like, imagine that. Like, the stuff that I do post is very vile against him. But, like, imagine the things that I don't say. But, like, if I did believe that Joe Biden had a chance of unseating Trump in November, there's a chance that I might fucking vote for him. Like, but I honestly don't. I don't believe that. The man can't string together a sentence. When he's put under any sort of pressure, he attacks whoever puts him under that pressure. He has plenty of verbal gaffes. He's, I'm not going to go the ageist route. That's an easy one. But especially when I wanted Bernie to win.
People are saying, someone like you and me, who are not going to vote for him, that we're Bernie supporters, we're going to lose this election for them, right? The thing is that a lot of the people that were going to vote for Bernie are not Democrats,
Yes.
They were never going to vote for your person. They were never going to vote for this Democratic candidate. Bernie Sanders was the only one that could pull them in, that could pull me in. That's it. Because he had policies that spoke to us, that pushed for real change, and like, so you grabbed a group of people who normally would never vote the same with you or align with you on this. You could have had them, we could have come together and voted for Bernie Sanders and taken down Trump and put something something different into the presidency. But, and I'm sorry, but the DNC is corrupt. They did it last time. They've done it again. I mean, Super Tuesday was a fucking ridiculous coordinated move by the DNC.
Yep.
Right? Having everybody just fucking drop out. Pete Buttigieg drops out when he's in second place. The guy's in second place. He gets a phone call from Obama. He turns his plane around and he announces he's dropping out. That's the most corrupt shit I've ever heard. And yet Elizabeth Warren stays in. Elizabeth Warren, who was speaking to a lot of Bernie voters. She seemed to have a lot of similar ideals. And come Super Tuesday, she takes some of his votes away. And what happens? Joe Biden, he walks away, the winner of Super Tuesday. And then she drops out, right? Coordinated attack by the DNC. Very corrupt. And they took it away from us again. You know, they want Joe Biden to be their guy. But you have to realize now, by taking away Bernie Sanders, you aren't losing Democratic voters. You're losing this group of leftist, people, Democratic socialists, communists even, who were coming together for this one candidate, for this movement. They're not going to vote for Joe Biden. They're not going to vote for anyone you put in there just because they're a Democrat. So we're not losing the election for them. They never had our vote. If Bernie Sanders was there, then they would have had a united movement. But they didn't do that. So to me, it's bullshit when they say that we're going to lose it for them. Like, no, that's not true. But at the same time, we're not voting for Trump, right? You're never going to vote for Trump. I'm never going to vote for Trump. That would never happen. So to me, you're dead even. You're still even, right? Like, if a vote for Trump is, a vote against Biden, or a vote for Biden, is against Trump, then we're even, because we're not voting for either. So you can't pin that on us. You can't do that. Like, that's just not how it works.
And is Bernie still on the ballot? I'm pretty sure he was put back on.
He still is. He didn't drop out. He suspended his campaign because Bernie Sanders is a very naive person. He's a nice man who likes to play nice with the DNC, but he still wants to enact change, and he's going to get every vote he can so that he can try and push that platform. And so if I have the choice between voting for him or voting for Joe Biden or voting for Trump, I'm going to vote for Bernie Sanders. And there's other people. The Green Party, do I expect them to ever win? No. But at least their platform makes more sense to me. So I might even go that route. There's other options. I don't believe in this two-party system. I don't. Like, you can't tell me that there's any difference between the Democrats and the Republicans at the end of the day. They go hand in hand.
And that speaks to what I've been saying about Biden too, that like people are like, oh, well, he'll put in a lefty Supreme Court judge to kind of balance things out and stuff. But I really don't think he will. Like, no. He just hasn't shown anything in what he's said or done or any of his beliefs or his voting history that he gives a shit. He is a conservative man running under a blue banner. And I also love what you said about, like, we're not splitting the party, or we're not, taking votes away from them. One of my friends said that to me. She was like, yeah, but don't you think it's splitting the party? And I said, the socialists were never going to vote Democrat. What do you mean?
It was never happening. Like, they can't wrap their heads around that.
Yeah, if you're having a pool party and you have 20 people you invited and I bring another 20 people with me, and then they don't know anybody there. They even brought their own beers, Ty. They brought their own beers. They're not like taking any of the beers or any of the, the liquor that you have at the tiki bar behind on your stone patio, with the semi-in-ground, semi-above-ground pool. They're barely even getting in the pool. They're like sitting along it, they're putting their feet in it, and they're talking to the people they know, and they're talking to me, and I'm introducing a couple of people to the people at the party. But by the time I leave, if I bring my, this is a straight to the point analogy, by the time I leave, and I take my people with me, they're like, oh, you're splitting the party. No, like, these were my people from the beginning. Why would they stay at your party when they brought their own beer? They don't need anything from you. You weren't giving them anything.
Exactly. You're not splitting the party. You're just taking back the party that you were with originally, right? Like, they're not part of that group. They were never part of that group. You had a chance to grab them and join with them, which is such a rare fucking chance that this happened. And it happened 2 elections in a row. Unbelievable. And
seriously. And
we didn't, we didn't let it happen. And it's not, it's one thing if Bernie Sanders lost fair and square, but he didn't. He didn't 2 elections in a row. So, don't tell me now I got to play nice and accept your candidate. Like, why
accept that corruption?
Yeah, like I that's what I don't get. Like, so what is the reason people want Trump out of office, right? A, he's a rapist. B, he's a racist. C, he's incompetent, right? Like, these are all traits that represent Joe Biden. Like, you can put those all of those things up there, and they can be either one of these men. So people I respect will say, we can't ignore the Tara Reid stuff. We have to look into it. Joe Biden's problematic. He's shitty. He's not great. But damn it, I'm going to vote for him. Think about that. Fucking think about that. You're telling me that this guy is not a good person, that you're questioning his ethics, his morals, and yet you're saying no matter what, you're still going to vote for him because he's not Donald Trump. They won. Like, we've all lost then. If that is our only options, then we have truly lost.
And because when the DNC gets those votes, they'll still see, okay, so these people will still vote for our candidate. There's no reason we have to, change our tactics at all. There's no reason we have to change our dirty tactics. We can still be completely corrupt, and they'll still, vote for us. And like a lot of people are like, oh, so you're just trying to send a message, and people are going to suffer.
They're going to suffer anyway.
Yeah, they are. And it's not just about like, I'm really not trying to be that edgelord who's like, I'm sending a message to the system, man. Fuck the system. When like, when I have, nothing to lose from it. If my candidate is still on the ballot, why would I not vote for my candidate? If I hate a candidate, why would I vote for that candidate in the first place? Like I said, I don't believe he has a chance of getting Donald Trump out of office. I think there's no way. And I don't believe that his interests are in any way aligned with the interests of the people. My friend today, Joe, he said, like, well, he may not appoint a lefty judge, a Supreme Court justice, but he'll promote somebody who's a little more left. And like gradually the change will happen. The change will go back. Like at this point, things are getting so drastic. I don't see that happening. Like I think people are holding on to a system and to a country that is becoming something of the past. And it's either, going to give birth to something worse or hopefully something better. Like I really
yeah, I mean, if anything, we've moved in
it.
the opposite direction, right? Like we've just gone so far to the right. Like there doesn't seem to be anything moving to the left. I don't see how people can say that. Like that doesn't seem to be the direction we're trending. And like I think about how many people were running, for the Democratic Party. And I'll be honest, the only one I really liked was Bernie Sanders. But of all of them, Joe Biden was probably the worst candidate. Like I would have rather have seen Pete Buttigieg up there. Well, I'm not a fan of. Anyone, like Beto O'Rourke. Like there's so many people that would have been a better choice than him. He's literally the worst person. He can't even go on stage and talk. So like, it just
gets in fights with average people.
Yeah, like it's just mind blowing to me that like this is your guy. This is you're gonna hang your banner on him. Like wow, you really don't give a fuck. Like you don't care. Like to me, it means the Democratic Party doesn't really care about winning. They just care more about not losing to a socialist. They don't want a socialist in power. So they would rather lose the election to Donald Trump than let someone like Bernie Sanders in office. And to me, that means, well, then no, I'm not going to give you my vote. I'm going to send that message because it's the only thing that I can actually do that will make a difference.
It's really frustrating. I feel like I've repeated a lot of the same points so many times. And, like, I'm not sure we have time for the pendulum to swing slowly to the left because, like, America was never there. So where did the pendulum start in the first place? Basic science, if you want to use that fucking pendulum analogy, right? In 7th grade, you had Mr. Braun too, right?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
For science? Yeah, we were in the same homeroom. That's when I met you. So 7th grade, Mr. Braun used to do this experiment where he would tie a bowling ball to the ceiling, and he would hold the bowling ball up to his nose and drop it, and it would swing across and then swing back to his face, but it wouldn't hit it. Because no matter what, it lost its kinetic energy. And like, if you want to use that pendulum analogy, that's what happens. The kinetic energy, it doesn't go all the way right, then all the way left, then all the way right, then all the way left. Like the kinetic energy of that pendulum, it dissipates, and it never gets to that place. My argument is that we never really were in a great place to begin with, and you and I and a bunch of other people are wishing for like this idealistic society, you know, but it's not, I don't think that's the kind of thing that comes gradually. You know, it's the kind of thing that, you know, that just has to be taken. And what form will this take? I don't know. You know, there are a lot of people who are still trapped in that two-party system, and they're like, "Oh, this is the only way," blah blah blah. But like, no, it doesn't. It doesn't have to be this way.
It doesn't.
You don't have to have that lesser of two evils. You don't. You know, you don't have to conform to this two-party system, because you're encouraging them every time you vote within it. I did last time.
You wouldn't do it again, right? Like I did the same thing. I wouldn't do it again. And I think if you go out to the protests right now, if you were to go there right now and talk to the people out in the streets protesting Black Lives Matter, and you ask them if they want to wait for gradual change, they're going to tell you no. Because we can't survive gradual change. We need to have immediate change. And if you vote for Joe Biden, you're spitting in the face of that change. That's how I feel. That's how I feel about it.
And it's absolutely your right to feel that way. And in the show Blackish, they had an election episode that I've also mentioned in previous episodes. But, you know, they were, you know, asking Andre, the main character, like, why he wasn't like super upset about Trump winning and blah, blah, blah. Like, that was the whole thing. It was all these white liberal people who were like upset about Trump winning, and Andre was like, "Oh, whatever." And they're like, "How could you not care?" Blah blah blah. And he's like, "This, my people have suffered under Democratic and Republican presidents throughout our entire history in this country. What are you talking about?" You know, he's like, "I've loved this country even when it hasn't loved me." But like, you know, things are still going to be the same for these people, regardless of who the leader is, unless it's, you know, it's the right leader. Maybe it's not the leader. Maybe we all fucking separate into our own little, you know, states. I don't know. I really don't.
It's about the movement, right? Like we gotta stop putting all our energy into one person. You know, Bernie Sanders, I think, was a great example of that. You know, I think so many people got behind him when he, you know, suspended his campaign. It was heartbreaking, but it doesn't mean his movement has to die. We can continue that movement. And if we have to find another leader for it, we will. But you can't just turn your back on it if you really, truly believe in it.
Yeah, you really shouldn't let everything rest on one figurehead, which I think we talked about in the Snowpiercer episode.
Yes.
So with that being said, who knows how many things have happened in the news since we began this podcast. Do you have anything else to add in your closing statements, Mr. T?
Yeah, I want to say, I think the people listening to this probably have a similar viewpoint to us, or at least can understand it. And most of you probably are supporting, you know, the protests that are going on right now and Black Lives Matter. And I think it's really important to show our support, to be an ally. And maybe that doesn't mean going out and protesting in the streets, but it's supporting the people that are. And if you go to MinnesotaFreedomFund.org, you can donate, and they're going to use that money to help bail out a lot of the protesters that have been arrested, get lawyers for them. It's going to a good cause. I know a lot of people have been donating to them, and they're really appreciative. It's going directly back into the communities and helping these people. So that's MinnesotaFreedomFund.org. I highly encourage everyone to donate. It doesn't have to be a lot of money. You get $5, throw $5 in there. It adds up, you know. And I think we're gonna throw that in our show notes, right?
Yes, that's gonna make it into the show notes, along with a lot of different articles and you know, movie suggestions, because the stuff is founded on history. Like, you know, we're not just saying these things to upset people. These are literal things that people have talked about and admitted to and have studied before. So, you know, if you're looking for a little bit of an education, that's in the show notes. If you have anything else to add, remember that you can reach out to us. You can find us at politipoppodcast.wordpress.com, which is where you'll find our show notes. You can find us at Podbean. You can find us, rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify now. You can email us at politipopcast@gmail.com. Find us on Twitter at politipoppod. Find us on Instagram at politipoppodcast.
Yeah, I mean, just remember, it could be the smallest thing that you do. Whatever it is, whether it's correcting someone making a racist comment, or just trying to get to understand someone, a person of color. Don't be afraid to talk about these things and learn about these things. I think for me, that's been one of the most important things in my life, and it's been very rewarding. So I encourage anyone who's listening to think about these questions and think about where you stand on them.
Yeah, and when your whole way of thinking is challenged, your body does fight back as if it's a physical threat. So like that's where your stepfather comes from, and where I've come from when being presented with certain truths, and where a lot of other people do. So I know it's tough. You recoil at the thought of certain things, but don't hesitate. Just reach out there and give yourself space to learn. Forgive yourself. Do your best to educate others, and that's about it. There's not really much else to say. Stay safe out there. Stay informed. Stay woke. And for the Politipop podcast, I've been Mike Booch.
I've been Ty.
No matter what you're watching, no matter what you're listening to, no matter what you're reading, never stop learning, never stop thinking. But if you need to take a break, that's absolutely okay. Take care of yourself and read between the lines. Hopefully you enjoyed the second part of our 2-part episode. Today we're going to be writing out on This Is America by Childish Gambino. It was relevant when it was written. It's relevant now. Hopefully in the near future it won't be relevant. But we'll see. Don't just listen to the song. Watch the music video, because they really go hand in hand and they help each other out. One without the other is an injustice to the art and the artistry that is Childish Gambino. Everybody, stay safe out there. Stand up for what's right. His drug dealers were racist. His drug dealers were racist.
Shit, man, this goes deep.
Oh my god, sorry. All the girlfriends I've ever seen him have were black. That's not right. So hold on a second.
I was like, really? This is so fucked up, dude. Dude, get your dad on this podcast. You need to interview that motherfucker right now.
All of his girlfriends were black. All of his wives were Chinese.
All his drug dealers were fucking racist.
All his drug dealers were black. They were racist. They were racist black people. Oh my god.
Oh, that's the funniest I've heard all week. Thank you.
Boy. Oh, man. Shit. Oh, what are we going to do? All right, here we go. Settle.
And scene.